You alright? My name's Paul, I've got autism, and I make random videos based on my version of autism and the way my head works, and I stick the videos on the internet just in case you fancy giving them a watch. And I hope you're doing alright. So, I'm going to talk about an article in the news, if you'd be so kind as to indulge. Would help if you had my tablet near me, wouldn't it? But basically, this is a story about an autistic person who, mind-blowingly, this is a rare story, actually came out on top. That never happens. The thing is, the story is flawed greatly. It's very evident that they've never considered how this came across from an autistic perspective. You can tell the person who wrote the article has no idea what autism actually is, and it's scary how they put it together. You can see that the manager actually had a problem with this employee rather than what they did, which led to them going to court. But there is one thing in there which absolutely boils my blood as an autistic person, and that's when an autistic person blames their autism for the reason they do something negative. So I will try and really focus in on that. I think that'll be the point of the chat, because I have a very different opinion and a very different mindset on that, because I'm autistic and I know what my autism does, and I also know what my attitude and my temperament do too. So we'll try and have a chat about that as we go through. So let's have a shot. So, autistic AA driver who joked about dropping colleagues from a window was unfairly sacked by a boss who thought it incredibly inappropriate to make comments about physical harm, a tribunal rules. And for those who don't know, even though I'm pretty sure the AA are everywhere, they're a roadside breakdown recovery service. I'm with the RAC, not that you asked. An autistic AA driver who was sacked after he joked about dropping two colleagues out of a window was unfairly sacked by his boss, a tribunal has heard. Adrian Lloyd Penny said he was going to drop night manager Lyndon Tyler and dispatcher David Bodison from a third-story window during a heated phone call. That makes it sound like he was on the phone going, I'm going to drop you on your heads. Third-story window, yeah, you two. You find out that's absolutely not the case. Spoiler alert. The recovery driver made the comment in jest, and this is the bit that gets me, after his autism flared up. It's not psoriasis, you know what I mean? I don't know why they use that word. Flared up. When he thought the pair had made a mistake. An employment tribunal heard. Later that day, he apologised to his colleagues who took no offence to the remark, as he was clearly joking, the hearing was told. That should be the end of it, shouldn't it? Despite this, Mr. Lloyd Penny was called to a meeting where he was sacked, as bosses found it incredibly inappropriate to make comments about physical harm. The driver is now set for a payout after successfully suing the AA for disability discrimination. Good on you, Mr. Lloyd Penny, good on you. And I really do like that, because even though, as I go through it, you'll find that it doesn't matter that he was autistic, it wouldn't have mattered whatever disability he has. The fact is, it wasn't commensurate. You know, the sacking was not proportionate to what he says and how he said it, because that's very important as well. Like I said, this guy didn't kick a door in and go, I'm going to throw you both out of a top-story window, I'm going to make sure you land on your heads. He didn't do that. So, the tribunal held in Watford heard Mr. Lloyd Penny started working for the AA in March 23. This is where it's mad. The employee, who has autistic spectrum condition, is that a new one? Have I been asleep? Have they invented something new? I've never heard that condition before. Autistic spectrum condition. First of all, not a condition. And I will always caveat that with, I'm autistic, I would know. I don't have treatment for my condition. I'm autistic. I have a processing difference. Think Apple and Android. They live on the same planet. They're just two very different operating systems. That's autism. And I know that because I am autistic. It's very unusual for me for non-autistic people to tell me I'm wrong when they're not the ones who are autistic, so therefore they can't know. Strange world. And I know not everybody's like that. I'm talking about the ignorant ones, of course. So, Mr. Lloyd Penny, he would attend breakdowns at the side of the road. In August last year, he became annoyed over the perceived error made by two colleagues, Mr. Tyler and Mr. Bodison. The tribunal, this is amazing, saw a transcript from the conversation, the telephone call in which he told the handler, and it's going to take me at least 2 hours, if not 2.5 hours, to get home, or at least get to the depot. I hope to God I never meet the manager who was dealing with this or the dispatcher that gave me the job, because I'll drop him on the head from a third-story window. And it was a joke. Mr. Tyler forwarded the transcript from the call during an email exchange. The night manager said that the driver was occasionally argumentative and unreasonable on the phone, adding, "Find below an example of the call into the office this morning where Adrian mentions dropping myself and the recovery dispatcher from a third-story window onto our heads." Please note, this is the important bit, myself and the dispatcher take no offence as he was clearly joking. But yet the manager still went ahead and sacked him anyway. Now, I can appreciate a few things from that. One, I've been in those situations before where there is someone deciding where I go and the work I do, and they make worse decisions than I would have made. It is deeply frustrating. I worked, not the last place, the time before. I managed where I worked. I managed my overnights. I knew where I was going. I knew what I was doing. Then we got this new manager who was an absolute pair of clown shoes. He couldn't manage his way out of a wet paper bag. He was useless. His name was Bob. And he said, to make it better for you and to be more flexible with your time, I'm going to have the girl in the office arrange your work for you. All right. A bit annoying, but all right. And the conversations I would have with other advisors about how incompetent this girl was were a hell of a lot worse than what this guy's been saying. But the thing is, we knew it wasn't her fault. We knew it was the boss's fault for putting someone deeply incompetent in charge of doing this. So what they would do, just as a hand reference, is she would get in touch and go, right, on Monday, you're going to Leeds. Tuesday, you're going to Liverpool. Wednesday, you're going to Bradford. And you're like, well, why don't I'll tell you what's better is why don't I go to Leeds Monday? I'll do a stay over. I'll do Bradford Tuesday, go home, and then I'll go and do Liverpool Wednesday. And she'd go, well, if you want to do that, you're going to have to contact them because I've arranged it all now. So then you would have to contact everyone anyway to rearrange it the way you would have originally arranged it because she messed up. People don't always make the best decisions, and it leaves you feeling deeply frustrated. This guy was clearly frustrated over a bad decision being made. And again, autism. Self-aware autism. This guy can drive, he can fix cars, he's obviously self-aware. He will know if there was a better choice to make, and he can't make much sense why he's been the chosen one to travel 2.5 hours away. There's got to be a closer person, a closer breakdown recovery person. You know, why would he go all that way when there's better ways of doing it? So I can appreciate why he'd be frustrated. And when you get frustrated, what you're not allowed to do with non-autistic people, which is a strange, unfortunate case, is you can't tell them the truth. You can't just say to them, that's a bad call. It's a bad call because I'm far away. It's going to take me a long time to get there. There are people who are closer. You need to send one of them because this doesn't make any sense at all. For some reason, we're not allowed to do that because that's direct, but people take directness, even though it's factual, as rude or insulting. So we can't win by being truthful. So instead, we mock with jokes because it's a coping mechanism. This guy clearly did that and instead still got persecuted for it. Anyway. He was invited to an invitation to a probation review, and he was told during that meeting that his job was no more. The manager asked him, do you recall an incident with the indoor team where you advised the call handler that you would go and see the dispatcher and night manager on that evening and go up there and drop them from a top-story window onto their heads. In response, this again is what I don't like, Mr. Lloyd Penny said the two employees, Mr. Taylor and Mr. Bodison, had flared up and ignited his autism, so he needed to walk away from it. Yes, he did need to walk away from it. But ignited and flared up, like I've said, autism is not psoriasis. It's not like we get stressed and we break out in something. It's not the same. So what I mean by that is, using me as the example, I am logical. I am truth. I want justice. If someone breaks the law, they need to be punished for it. I don't care who they are, how wealthy they are. I do not care what anything about them apart from they broke the law, said it right. So I have this logic built into me where emotion does not matter. What I would personally want never ever trumps the logic of truth and pattern and the recognition of that. Never. So when my autism is all of that, the truth, the logic, the structure, the just, that's fine. Now, when something happens which goes against everything and how I am and how I'm built and how I'm designed, that can then affect my mood, my temperament, and my attitude. They are the things that react. Autism doesn't react. It is a foundation of difference within the person. And all it is difference. That's it. But the way you're designed, the autism is just how you consider. It's just how you think. It's how you process. And you have your tenets within that. But your mood, your attitude, your temperament, they are the reactors. They're the things that failed this guy. Because what he didn't do was control them. Because he couldn't use the truth, he couldn't use the logic, he couldn't use the things of his normal design because these were people in another role, potentially more senior. I've been there 1,000 times. Bosses making crap decisions. Decisions that are going to drag out, that'll take too long. Decisions that will not benefit, will not help us. Decisions that will increase the time and not increase the accuracy. It goes against everything I am as an autistic person because all I want to do is find the best way of doing something and get it done. So then what I end up with is dealing with the aftermath where my mood, my attitude, and my temperament are then affected by it. My attitude never changes. It doesn't flare up. It doesn't ignite. They do. But they will only flare up or ignite with the clash based off what is going to be the trigger. But how I control myself, the things I say, the way I conduct myself, they are all still within my control. Because I control, like it says there, he should have walked away from it. Sometimes walking away is the best answer. Other times it's taking a moment to really think about work and why am I being so personally affected by bad decisions other people make? If I want to make that type of difference, I need their job. So I'm going to get my nose to the wheel. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to graft. And the next time a job comes up, I'm going to go for that job because then I'll make the decisions and I'll improve these processes. So that's more what you do. However, some people just react. And if they do, it means they need more control over their mood, their attitude, and their temperament. And that's just self-control. So when the autistic person, blames his autism on what happened, that's the part that doesn't sit well with me. But again, we're all different. We're all allowed our different perspective. I'm just simply sharing mine. And you're good enough to watch. His manager told him that threats of violence and speaking to anyone in this manner was not acceptable and ended his probation. And this is where you can prove that the manager had a problem with the guy because this paragraph shows that he had a personal problem with the guy because, this is not commensurate to what he said. Mr. Townsend, the manager, said, "No one should be coming into work at risk of being shouted or sworn at." He didn't do that. And it's incredibly inappropriate to call colleagues names or make comments about physical harm, even if the comments were meant in jest. So he made something up that didn't happen. That is always what happens when we, autistic people, are trying to resolve a conflict where it's been blown out of proportion. We stick to the truth and other people throw in things that aren't real for effect. That can get frustrating because it muddies the waters. All we want is the truth. What was the truth will be the truth, and we move forward with it. Everybody else wants to add drama, confusion, deception, and it just muddies everything about it. Because when you ultimately lose, which 9 times out of 10 we do, we're left even more frustrated because we know the truth. And we know what manipulation people had to put in, because one of my theories is non-autistic people generally see life in how you win and how you lose, and autistic people see life in what is right and what is wrong. They are massively separate, because what is right and will always be right. It's unequivocal, it's factual, it can be scientific, it can be nailed on. Whereas when you win, you can win dirty, So you don't have to be right to win. You can cheat to win. And some people do in these situations. I know autistic people who have been through court cases as well, and they've lost court cases based off lies and fabrication, and have lost on, the balance of probability. And that's deeply unfair. The truth should always be the truth. So at least this guy had truth because it was a recorded phone call. And even though it might seem like I'm going on about it, you've no idea what a win that is, to hear some truth and know only the truth was considered. So good on him for that, but shame on him for blaming autism as the reason he reacted. Employment Judge Patrick Quill said, in terms of how you treat comments such as those made during the call about dropping Tyler and Bodison on their heads from a large height, we accept that any responsible employer would wish to take action rather than ignore such comments. I agree. But what do? You don't sack them. You pull them to one side and go, look, this is what you've said. I can't have you talking about colleagues in that way. Don't even ingest, don't mock physical violence, dropping them out a window. That's not funny. I just ask you in the future to keep your thoughts to yourself or come and talk to me about them. Because if you're not happy with the way something is run, I am the manager. I need to know. This is the only time I'm going to just have a chat with you. If you ever do something like this again, we are going to have to go a bit stronger with it. All right? And they'll go, okay. Any reasonable employer would want to ensure that employees have an appropriate work environment. The judge said that the AA had very clear legal duties to its employees, including statutory health and safety duties. Of course they do. I work in health and safety, so the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, Section 2.1, the employers must ensure the health, safety and welfare of their employees. It's the first thing you see. Of course they do, but this wasn't a threat to that. They also have to make sure that they follow the Equality Act 2010 for protected characteristics, of which one of them is autism. So this manager wasn't doing that bit, because I'm surprised whether they would have followed the Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations 1999, Section 3, ensuring that the risk assessments were carried out to ensure that this gentleman was considered because of his autism. So, you can throw stones, but you've got to be careful where you aim them, because some people like me might know what they're on about every now and again. The judge said the AA had the duties. Despite this, the panel upheld Mr. Lloyd Penny's claims of disability discrimination. The judge said Mr. Townsend's dismissal decision was based on the fact that because of Mr. Lloyd Penny's autism, there was a future risk of him raising his voice or being angry or being aggressive to other colleagues or customers in the future. It's a guess. And again, his autism won't make him do that. His mood, his attitude, and his temperament will be the reactors which will decide how that occurs. And yeah, we've all got some personal development to do. We've all got to look and work on ourselves continually, autistic or not. Maybe he's got a short fuse. How many people do we know with a short fuse? Man, I could nip out my front door, throw a stone, I'll hit someone with a short fuse. But then if I throw a stone at them, they're going to have a short fuse, aren't they? So that's a bad example. But you know what I mean. You don't find many people with patience anymore. The tribunal had heard that Mr. Lloyd Perry struggles with constant change and could become angry if he feels he's not heard due to his autism. No. If you're not heard, so let's say something changes and it's not for the right reason. Something changes, the process changes, and it doesn't bear fruit. The process changes, it takes just the same amount of time, so you've had no improvement, you've just changed it for no reason. It can be frustrating. And what I do as someone who is process-minded is go, why? Why have you changed it? How come we've changed it and it's going to take the same amount of time? This doesn't improve the process. Why did you change it? And 9 times out of 10, they don't have the answer, or they don't just want to go, we just did. We thought it'd help, it didn't, so we were stuck with it now. We've spent fortunes on it. We're sticking with it. No one tells you the truth. So you either don't get given an answer or you get told to shut up. And that's the part that frustrates you. I don't know why that's a difficult thing to figure out. When things change, it's got to be for the right reasons. It's got to be beneficial, save time, more accuracy, better user control. So I can appreciate it, but he doesn't need to get angry over it because, again, this is about the personal growth that we all have to do. You might work there, but you don't, work don't own you and your life isn't your work. Find a separator. I heard something a while ago which resonated with me and I've tried to stick with it ever since. If you look at the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the easiest, if anything that bothers you about work registers more than a 5, it isn't about work. It'll be about the annoyance of that person being the boss because they're incompetent. It'll be the fact you get promised things and you keep getting let down. They're the things that take it above 5 because it's personally affecting you. We've got to learn that work and life are 2 very separate things. And the wage you get is just a monthly subscription for you, to access you. You don't owe them any more. You don't owe anything more to them. That's something a lot of us have to appreciate and learn. I've been the worst culprit. I have given my heart and soul to work. It's got me nowhere. So I can appreciate how you can get a bit frustrated. It's recognised that when probationary proceedings were being arranged at short notice, Mr. Lloyd Perry's wife had to communicate with bosses due to the distress it caused him. Yes, because that's where the lack of logic will come into it. This man said a quick throwaway quip to somebody and he's getting sacked over it. It wasn't sexist, it wasn't racist, it wasn't some sort, it wasn't an ism or a phobe. It was just, come on. So when you have the illogic nature going against your logical nature, you do need intervention sometimes because you need someone else who has the ability to translate stupid to you. Because all we want to do is deal with it in fact, not fiction, get it done and move on. But we live in a world where drama matters more than the truth half the time, so I can appreciate why he had his wife talk to them. Providing a judgment, Judge Quill said, "We do not suggest that it would have been reasonable to expect the AA to have told its call handlers that they had no choice other than to put up with any or all abuse that Mr. Lloyd Penny delivered to them, regardless of what he said or how he said it. I agree. No one should ever have to be subjected to any abuse whatsoever. However, we also reject the argument that the only 2 options were either the proposition mentioned," it didn't mention one, or dismissing him. The panel found that Mr. Lloyd Penny apologising to Mr. Tyler after the comment was significant to the proportionality of the decision to dismiss, and a remedy hearing to decide his compensation will be held at a later date. Now, first and foremost, I don't know who this Mr. Lloyd Penny is, but if you're ever watching Mr. Lloyd Penny and you want to get on a call and do a video to give your side of the story, get in touch. I would love to hear your side of the story, to see how wildly inaccurate I've been about your case. But I want to say well done whether he hears it or not for the fact that he had the fortitude to stand up against an injustice. I have made worse jokes than that against better people. I've made worse jokes about that, about me. I use jokes as a coping mechanism because that's what they are. If you're not allowed to vent and frustrate, you just have to deal with. And there are so many inaccuracies, there are so many flaws, failings that surround us in our daily life. And when you're autistic, all you want to do is fix them. We don't just want to point them out and sulk about them. We want them fixed, but we're never in a position of power to do so because people don't want us in that position because we're seen as problematic, troublesome, argumentative, all because we're the only ones who generally speak up because we can't just fall in line and get it done when there are flaws that can be fixed. I'll always stick by with what I said about autism being your fundamentals of how you're designed, but your mood, attitude, and temperament are the things that do react, and they're the things that will cause outbursts, anger, frustration, because they're the things you need to self-manage. Otherwise, we would all have those outbursts, and we all don't. But well done for the evidence. Well done for winning. Well done for showing that the manager clearly had a personal vendetta because of the proportion. You said a joke and you got sacked over it. That's not proportionate. You were never warned, not that it was evidenced in that story. And it just makes a difference, that autism isn't being blamed for something, even though he shouldn't have tried to blame his autism for it. He was still treated incorrectly throughout, regardless of whether he was autistic or not. So in that instance, it's actually quite a good story for me to finally see where autism is not being the whole blame and cause over something which was illogical, and autism still ends up being the thing that is blamed at the end. Justice prevailed. It was the manager's disproportionate attitude that led to the dismissal, and he shouldn't have been dismissed. Now, what I'm interested in knowing about is, did he get his job back? Because usually in these instances, you're given your job back and you still get the payout. So I'm curious to that. But anyway, that is my thoughts, which I'm allowed. I shared my autistic opinion, which I'm absolutely allowed, just like you are. But what do you think to that story? Let me know. But anyway, until we get to catch up again soon, my friends, thank you very much for watching and keep smiling.